America in the 21st century, a powerhouse of commerce, communication, and technology. Where did it all begin? In small post-colonial communities, where America's entrepreneurial spirit took hold. One example is Buckland, Virginia. Located approximately 35 miles from Washington, D.C., where Route 29 crosses Broad Run, it was Prince William County's first inland established town. For centuries, the area was home to numerous Native American settlements. The Susquehanna Plain Path, which was used by tribes to travel up and down the East Coast, ran through it. Ultimately, the trail became the Carolina Road, which was used by Europeans to settle the region. By 1774, when Samuel Love bought over 1,100 acres along Broad Run, native settlements had been replaced by modest homes and a grist mill. Samuel Love built a large home for his family and named it Buckland Farm. When he died in 1787, he left the estate to his son, John. John was a lawyer, politician, and astute businessman. Like his father, he farmed wheat and tobacco. Over time, he expanded his grain production by building additional grist mills, and with his brother Samuel, began breeding horses. The Love brothers' effort to improve the thoroughbred bloodstock was so successful that George Washington purchased one of their horses for his own use. In 1797, 55 citizens petitioned the Virginia General Assembly to establish a town on John Love's land. In January 1798, the petition was approved. The 48-lot town of Buckland was laid out on a traditional English axial village pattern, with Buckland Farm at one end and a grist mill at the other. John and the town's trustees attracted and sold lots to independent business owners, including free African Americans. Over time, it was home to numerous grist mills, several taverns, a blacksmith, tannery, woolen mill, and 2 distilleries. Ned Distiller, a freed slave who lived in Buckland, ran one of them. To improve his wheat yield, John experimented with crops. He grew Lawler wheat, a strain that was resistant to the Hessian fly, which was ravaging wheat crops at the time. Seeds from Buckland Farm helped combat the near failure of the wheat industry. As the legal representative of inventor Oliver Evans, John was introduced to a new concept: mass production in grain mills. In 1784, Evans had automated the production for turning wheat into flour. With power supplied by a water wheel, his design allowed grain to pass through the stages of cleaning, grinding, cooling, and sifting by using a bucket elevator to move the seed up, chutes to move it down, and 2 workers doing what had taken 6 or 7 to accomplish. Recognizing the potential benefits for his community, John automated his mills, making Buckland a center of technology.
John Love had a large milling operation. He had 4 different grist mills operating at one time. 2 of them were merchant mills producing large quantities of flour, and 2 of them were country grist mills. And the roads in the area were very vital to be able to get the product from the Buckland area to the port in Alexandria.
Buckland citizens petitioned the Virginia General Assembly for a company to pave a road from Fauquier Courthouse in Warrenton through Buckland to Fairfax, where it could connect to the Little River Turnpike, which led to Alexandria. With permission granted, the Fauquier and Alexandria Turnpike Company raised funds and began construction of the toll road in 1812. Resident George Britton received the contract to build a 10-mile stretch, using primarily slave labor. At the time, roads in the Commonwealth were neither professionally constructed nor maintained. But in 1823, Claudius Crozet, a French engineer who had been Napoleon's bridge builder and later a professor at West Point, was hired as chief engineer for the Commonwealth. He implemented a new technology in road building, macadamization. The brainchild of Scotsman John Loudon Macadam, the process used stone rather than soil to create all-weather roads that could withstand heavy loads.
You get a type of hard surface and that naturally drains It allows water to go through. In an area like the Mid-Atlantic where you get freeze-thaw, it makes it very easy to travel on. It makes it easier for things like wagons, wheeled vehicles to travel on, as well as horses. But it does increase the capacity of the road.
McAdam advocated that you had to start with a solid base first. He argued that you had to use a hard angular stone, and that all of the stone that you quarried had to be passed through a 3-inch diameter ring to ensure consistency in size. And when this layer of stone, let's say it's 7 or 8 inches, was applied, the normal use of the road through carriages, through horse, through pedestrian, would eventually compact the stone so that the angular faces would lock in with one another and create a coherent, solid mass. And then after that happened, you would apply a second level and then a third level.
Early users of the first macadamized road in the Commonwealth included the Marquis de Lafayette and American presidents from Madison to Jackson. Completed in late 1827, the Fauquier and Alexandria Turnpike was touted as the best road in Virginia.
The implementation of these improved roads, and specifically a macadamized road, was a huge technological advance from the mud roads and the dirt roads that were all over America at that time. They were considered to be the superhighways of their period, and they linked the important commercial and merchant areas, generally on the eastern seaboard of Virginia, with the interior, with central Virginia, Piedmont, and the Shenandoah Valley.
With the transportation infrastructure upgrade, 2 stagecoach lines for passengers and mail served Buckland. Word of the lively business-doing village spread as businesses continued to thrive through the first half of the 19th century. Buckland's location on the turnpike, coupled with its mills, made it strategically important during the Civil War, and it was occupied at different times by both Union and Confederate forces. On October 19, 1863, the Battle of Buckland Mills took place. From the front lawn of Cerro Gordo, the plantation on the hill across Broad Run, Brigadier General George Custer shelled the town. Fortunately, the cannon shots passed over the village, resulting in limited damage to the buildings. As the day progressed, Union forces crossed the river and were subsequently ambushed by Confederate General Jeb Stuart's forces. Remembered as Custer's most serious defeat prior to Little Bighorn, Confederates later described the Union forces' hasty retreat up the turnpike as the Buckland Races. Today, the portion of Route 29 that passes through the town is a core part of the battlefield and a focus of preservation efforts. Following the Civil War, Buckland's fortunes waned. The road system, which had helped it prosper, could not compete with the rail system, which bypassed the town. With no reconstruction funds forthcoming, businesses relocated. As time went on, most of its original structures remained, with few changes. In the 20th century, Route 29 was widened. A new bridge was constructed next to the abutments of the old Turnpike Bridge, and Crozet's macadamized road was buried under modern pavement. In 2012, an archaeological investigation to locate remnants of the old Turnpike and Stagecoach Inn led to an unexpected discovery: a paved road and sidewalk.
It would have been a local Buckland road, and an effort that was initiated by the founders of Buckland themselves. And we believe that it is one of the earliest, if not the earliest, example of a rural sidewalk in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Buckland's existing buildings and archaeological sites are important because they shed light on our development as a nation. We learn about engineering principles for the manufacturing, we learn about the evolution of roads and transportation infrastructure.
I think Buckland is a jewel. To find one house or a grouping of houses that are from the late 18th century and early 19th century is rare and unusual. But to find a village, a town, which is largely intact and has seen little development over several centuries is just remarkable. And Buckland is sincerely one of the best preserved towns that we know of in this part of Virginia. both in terms of its architectural resources and its archaeological resources.
The Buckland area gives us a sense of history, of place. And it's important to preserve places like Buckland because it grounds us in our community and it enriches our lives.